Here we are, chopping it up with Dave and Spacco.
At the Northmead Midnight Butcher Shop. Hey guys, if you like what you hear, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you can receive updates on when new episodes drop. So here we are, episode 2, and we've got our good friend Charlie. He's a retired New South Wales police officer of 31 years, an outdoorsman, bow hunter, good friend, founder of the Sydney Indoor Bow Hunting Group out at St Mary's, and just a legend, really.
Yeah. Charlie, welcome to the Northmead Midnight Butcher Shop.
Thanks for having me.
No worries, thanks for coming.
Thanks for calling me a legend.
Of course, mate.
Mate, we wouldn't be the first ones to do it, come on.
Oh, my wife used to call me that sometimes.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. No.
No, well, mate, thanks for coming down. We wanted to get you on the podcast because, as members of the St Mary's Indoor Bow Hunters group, we feel like it's had a really positive impact on the bow hunting community. It's given everybody another opportunity to go and shoot targets at night time during the week under lights and just briefly what I notice when I go there, sometimes I think I wouldn't even care if I didn't bring my bow. I just like coming down, having a chat to all the guys, and there's a couple of girls I think who are coming down now too, and just mixing it up, talking about archery, talking about bow hunting, and it's just a buzz. Like it's a buzz in the middle of the week. So I feel like I get a lot out of it. So when we decided to do this positive podcast, like honestly, mate, you were one of the first people who we spoke about. You were one of the first names we wrote down, going, "Yep, we could get Charlie on there. We definitely want to talk about him." So that's sort of why we wanted to get you in the hot seat, mate. But why don't we kick off? Tell us about what made Charlie Charlie. Where'd you grow up? And then if you want to run us through getting to this point now.
So I'm a son of two immigrants. I was brought up in the my parents are Maltese, and I was brought up in the inner western suburb of Sydney. I grew up at Rozelle, and until recently, my parents were still living at Rozelle. I got 2 brothers who are probably 2 of my best mates, which I'm lucky to have. And so I grew up in the inner west in the 60s and 70s. We did have a short stint where we actually went to Malta and we stayed there for a couple of years, which had a huge impact on my life because it changed me. Because, my parents were pretty strict and pretty protective. But when we went to live over there for a couple of years, for some reason, they gave me all this freedom. And I just kind of grew up in 2 years, grew up physically and mentally and developed real quick. So when we came back here, all I wanted to do was be a police officer for whatever reason that might be. I don't know what it was.
So just before we skip past that, what do you think the change? Why were they really strict here? I mean, Malta's an island. Did they feel safer there? Did they felt like you could just roam and come back whenever, and they felt that you were safe?
I think you nailed it. I think that's exactly what it was.
Wow.
And that we talk about things. It's interesting, isn't it? Like when you start talking about this stuff, 'cause things start coming back to my memory. Like my dad passed away 18 months ago. He had dementia. He passed away 18 months ago. Mum's now in a nursing home. She's got dementia as well, which is sad. But I still get to see her, and I still get to see her face and smile and have a conversation with her, even though it's a little bit nondescript. But what's interesting, I remember growing up, and a lot of the older people listening would remember this. There was a kid that was kidnapped. His parents won the lottery in Balmain, I think it was, in the 60s. And he was kidnapped. And I can't remember the name of this case now, but he was kidnapped and he was ended up dying. Never recovered.
For a ransom or something?
Yeah, for a ransom. There was a ransom, and I think there was a man that was charged with it, all that type of stuff. But to cut the story short, that had an impact on my mother. right, in the 60s. You know, she then became very
Fearful.
right? So just shows you how these things can have impact on people.
Yeah.
You know, you think it's all happening now, but it's happened through time. And that did have an impact on her. So when we did go to live in Malta for a couple of years in the early 70s, she did feel safer. And we were allowed to roam the streets.
Yeah.
And this was different. No, we grew up at Roselle where we were just at home and weren't allowed out and as young kids. And then all of a sudden, here I am as a young 12-year-old. I think I stayed there till I was about 14. I was allowed. I had a bike. I used to ride my bike. I was outdoors all the time. I was introduced. My cousin and my uncle introduced me to hunting. Wow. So I was outdoors with them all the time, doing all that type of stuff. And it had a huge impact on my life.
Probably good timing at that age too.
It was.
Perfect, rather than be at home in Roselle, you know, restricted.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you're trying to grow. You're growing quite rapidly in those early teen years.
Yeah.
And the more you're restricted, the more you want to sort of rebel. So having the opportunity to go there,
didn't have to rebel.
Get that freedom.
No, it's amazing. Yeah. Plus the other thing is too, like you get an opportunity to see where your roots come from.
Oh yeah.
You know, and you get to meet relatives.
Yeah.
You know, I met my grandparents for the very first time.
Did you have any other relatives in Australia?
I did. I had uncles and cousins who lived in Marylands, and
so you had connection here as well.
Yeah, we had plenty of connections here.
Yeah, but going back where you know you're from,
there's
something about it, even if you've never been there.
Yeah,
before.
I've been back there about 7 times. I'm hoping to go back there again next year because there is a connection now to that place.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
Did you do school there?
Yeah.
Oh wow! So
it's true.
And so, do you speak the language?
I do. It's a funny story, you know. I did, but I was never real good at it. Even the last time I visited Malta, my cousin picked me up from the airport. Him and I are very close. And these are my cousins who actually grew up here.
Okay.
They actually moved over there, but they never came back.
Really?
Yeah. So they're still there. And we're all very close. And so they're kind of Aussies living in Malta, right?
I wonder if their family call them the immigrants.
Yeah, probably.
Well, it's funny, you know. I've been a victim. It's funny. Growing up in the 60s and 70s, I was a victim of racism both here and over there.
Yeah.
And I remember being a victim of racism over there, and I'm going, shit, I can't win a trick everywhere I go. I'm something. You know? Yeah. But I remember when my cousin, it was 2013, my wife and I went to Malta for a holiday, and my cousin picked us up at the airport and asking me about if I could speak the language right. We get in the car, and he says, I said to him, can we speak Maltese so I can get some practice? He goes, yeah, no worries. So I started speaking Maltese. Within 30 seconds, he just starts pissing himself laughing. And I just looked at him and I said, what are you fucking laughing at? He said, just speak English, mate. Your Maltese is fucked. From that moment on, I never spoke Maltese again. I was so paranoid about it, you know.
That's an interesting thing just to touch on there too, right? So there was an opportunity there for him. Did you say he was your uncle?
No, cousin.
Cousin, yeah, righto. Was it older cousin?
Oh, no, almost the same age, basically.
Okay, righto. Oh, well, I guess someone the same age, you kind of accept it. But I noticed you got opportunities with younger people to encourage them to develop. So your Maltese might have been terrible.
Yeah.
But if he said, righto, you need to brush up on your Maltese. we need to work on that while you're here.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that might have totally changed your trajectory with that Maltese language.
But
instead, it made you go, I'm never going to speak Maltese again.
To learn English.
But see, the thing is that they forget too, right? That when that conversation took place, I was already 43.
Oh,
wow.
right. Oh, okay. So I thought that was when
this
you
is
went
when I went back there in 2013 for a holiday.
Oh, right. Gotcha.
So we're talking as two middle-aged men.
Yeah, right. I thought you were talking about when he picked you up when you were.
No, when I was a young
12.
kid, it was different because we had to learn to speak Maltese. We had to go to school.
Go to school, yeah.
You know, so
yeah.
So it's a funny story, but
yeah. So you lived in Malta for a couple of years, and then you came back to Australia.
Yeah.
So you did some hunting. You did some hunting there.
Yeah.
You said?
Yeah. I was introduced to the outdoors then, fishing and hunting with my uncle and cousins.
Get the bug from then?
I did. I got it bad.
What were you hunting in Malta?
Well, they hunt migratory birds back then.
Okay.
Right? It's changed a lot now because to be honest, and they weren't real good at managing. They just shot everything basically.
Well, that was the time too, Charlie, wasn't it?
It was. It was the 70s. So, you know, it wasn't well managed. And I think back now, I'm like, they shot everything from from turtle doves to sparrows, basically. You know.
Yeah.
So. But they ate everything.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so everything was cooked.
Yeah.
But there was no management. There was no tags. There was no limits.
Yeah.
You know, so it wasn't sustainable when all of the southern European nations would just shoot all these migratory birds as they headed south, and then shoot them again as they headed north.
Yeah,
you know.
right.
You know, my natural instincts are, well, we shouldn't be doing that.
Yep.
Even though I love hunting.
Yep.
You know, so.
Yeah, right. I see. So yeah, that lit the fire for hunting, and
It did.
And then you came back to Australia.
It did.
And then what year would that have been when you came back to Australia?
74.
Okay.
So I was 14. And I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to join the police. I wanted to be a policeman.
Yeah.
What triggered that? What?
Well, it's funny, Dave. It's a different era, isn't it, when we talk about it? When I talk about it, I just think I compare it to these days. It's so different. But I grew up in the 60s and 70s. We watched a lot of television because television was originally new.
Yeah.
And there's all the cop shows and all that type of stuff. And I looked at it and I said, that's what I'm going to do. And I remember a lot of my aunties and uncles used to say, oh, here he goes. Yeah, who's going to accept the wog copper? All this type of stuff. But I knew exactly what I wanted to do. You know, so as soon as I finished my HSC, I just got on a bus on Victoria Road and straight to police headquarters. So.
And just said, hey, I want to join up.
I want to join up.
What do I need to do? And so what was the process? What did you, back then?
Well, it's funny, because I was only, I just turned 18, right? And I remember at the time, I was overweight. And they said, you need to lose 3 or 4 stone or whatever it was. And I remember going home and I said to my mum, that's it, Mum, cut back on your food.
Yeah.
So my mum being Maltese.
Yeah.
And the Mediterranean women back in those days, they showed how much they loved you by how much they fed you, right?
Yeah.
And so I had to cut back on food. I started running every day. And I went back 3 months later and he said, okay, great, that was good work. So then I went through the process there.
And then, how long was the training? And
Well, back in those days, they just introduced a thing called the junior traineeship. You know, before that, they had the police cadets.
Okay.
Right, then they introduced the junior traineeship. So I became a junior trainee and I worked in certain sections in the police force where they gave me a taste and so I could see how it all operated.
Yep.
And that was from about February. And then I went into class at the academy later that year and graduated on the 10th of December, 1979.
So about a year, and then you're in. So where did you start officially?
I started at it was called Number 8 Division back then, so it was the Balmain district, and I worked at the substation at Leichhardt Police Station.
And that's where you did most of your
I did 4 years there in general duties as a young constable.
Do you ever do many arrests down where Dave's shop is? Was there any scrupulous behaviour going on down
back
there?
in those days, when I was growing up in Balmain, because your shop's in Balmain, right?
Yeah.
What street?
Beatty
Street, yeah.
Right, and it was a different class of people back then.
Worse?
Well, it was pretty. It was working class.
Yep.
Yeah, there was a lot of dockyard people lived there. A lot of migrants and ethnic people lived there, like my parents, for example, and us growing up. And it was really working class. It was a different place than it is now, you know. So it was a little bit busy, right? When I worked at Leichhardt was like they used to call it Little Italy.
Oh yeah.
There was all Italians living there.
Plenty of good restaurants still down
Fantastic back then, even back then.
Yeah.
You know, and even sometimes on night shifts, you know, some of the Italian mums would bring some leftover food to the police station.
Oh wow.
I know, it was different days.
Jeez.
We won't even go to all that stuff, but off camera, I can tell you a lot of stories about those days.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, righto. So yes, 1980, you're into the force.
Yeah.
You did 4 years in Balmain
At Leichhardt.
at Leichhardt. Yep, number 8.
Yep.
And then where to from there?
Well, then I always try to learn from guys who are very proactive in policing.
Yep.
Right. So, because that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a good street copper. I wanted to be someone who could do the job and stuff. So you kind of was reminded every day that you're only as good as what your workmates thought of you.
Yep.
Right. So that it was really drummed into you a bit. You know? So I tried to be proactive, and I watched a lot of guys who were better than me, and I tried to learn off them.
Yeah.
So then in the early 80s, they started a new thing called the anti-theft squad, and I went and worked in the anti-theft squad, and they just basically worked on street crime, break-in enters, car theft, street level drug dealing, and all that type of stuff. And we worked on that, and I was part of a squad there I did that for about 4 years, and that was really good. And it really set me up, because then I really learnt what policing was. And from there, I then became a detective. So I come from a situation where I thought, okay, well, I know everything now. Then you go to become a detective, and you think, no, I don't know nothing.
You're back to the bottom of the
But
pile
not only
is detectives.
That's
you know,
true. So you're
with all the
training
guys.
detective.
Yeah.
So, but also too, the work is so intricate, you know.
Yeah.
So you go from being someone on street level, think you know everything, then you go, shit, I don't know nothing.
Yeah.
So again, you know, I try to line myself up with good, hard-working men and women, which is good, because most of them were.
Yeah.
And you know, I became a detective, and that's where I kind of spent my rest of my career as a detective, working on various types of jobs.
Were there, because I know that, like the 80s was pretty wild with corruption, and like Victoria was bad, but I think New South Wales wasn't far behind it.
Yeah.
Were there situations that you found yourself in?
Well, it's a hard
As
question.
a police officer, detective, you answer it whichever way you
Well,
want
you
to.
know, corruption exists in society.
Yeah,
Corruption exists from the top of society all the way to the lowest ends of society, and everywhere in between, even to this day, because that's human nature. You know, if there's a buck to be made, or whatever.
because how would you define corruption? Because what might be corrupt to me, to you might be perfectly okay.
Oh, exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
it's a deal you're doing between you and Dave, and
Yeah.
I'm not included, so I think it's corrupt. You know, but to you guys, it's getting things done.
Yeah. Well, look, as you know, they had a Royal Commission in the late 90s, and that defined corruption. Everything was corrupt. I mean, even getting half-price McDonald's was corrupt, basically. But look, I was lucky, because I had, you know, in my early days, I had a good mentor, and he gave me certain advice about stuff. And I was the type of guy, and I was saying the day before, I'm a type of person that I don't need to be part of a clique. I love doing my own thing.
Yep.
Right? I have a strong self-belief system, and I don't need people to make decisions on my behalf, and I'm happy to follow the rules as long as the rules are good. Right?
So the rules have got to make sense.
That's right. So I then made a decision after spending a lot of time as a young copper with this other guy, Tony, and I just stayed clear of everything. Right?
Yeah.
And some people might say, "Oh, you turned a blind eye to it." Yeah, well, they don't realise what it was like back then, you know. So, you know, you couldn't just go, you know. Right? So I just turned a blind eye to it. If I sniffed anything that might be going on, I just turned away and walked and just kept doing my job. And I aligned myself with like-minded police, which were the majority.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yep.
And our job was to be police and make sure that we caught crooks, and we did our best to make sure that victims of crime got looked after, and that we were professional, and that people look at us and say, okay, these guys are straightforward professional police officers. So,
because Charlie, I guess for people who might criticise you for turning a blind eye,
yeah,
what would have happened if you tried to blow the whistle on everything that was all the things you saw? How long would your career have lasted, and what you wouldn't? Just thinking about it, I don't think you'd be able to be a detective in the 90s, and probably maybe not even today. I don't know, and be blowing the whistle on everything that was going on.
look,
What would have happened?
well, we'll never know, because no one did it, because there wasn't. It was a different society.
Yeah.
So you just had to focus on you doing your job. And I made a decision. I always want to do my job, and I'm not going to get involved in anything wrong, and that's how it's going to be. There was no way of doing anything, right? it's funny because I remember going for a job interview when I was going for promotion. One of the questions was asked about that type of stuff, and I said, you know, and I was totally honest with this person, and I actually got the job probably because I was so honest.
Yeah.
I said to the guy on the panel who asked me the question, I said, back in the day, people used to show up for work. You know, some of them would be hungover and they just, you know, sleep under the desk or whatever, right? But these days, we're not going to cop that, and I wasn't going to cop it. So we had a different system and a different ethical working. Different working ethics, right? But that doesn't mean that back in the 80s and 70s we didn't do our job, right? There were the majority of the cops who did the job.
Yeah.
Did the job every day and went home, right? And sure, there's a lot less major corruption now, but there's still corruption. I mean, it happens everywhere.
Yeah.
It's the honest truth. I mean, not that I know now. I've been out of the
But
cops
it's
for
the
40
minority.
years. It's a minority, you know.
Yeah.
You can't just start labelling everybody.
No.
You know, I tell you, I know in the 80s, I went to a house at Rhodes that got broken into, and these were people who were struggling, you know, and all the Christmas presents got stolen from the Christmas tree, right? And I remember going there and they had 4 kids and a young couple, and you know the father was kind of talking to me and he's in tears, right? He said, "Oh, my kids' presents, and we've saved up so hard to get these presents, right?" And I said to him, "Yeah, I know it's terrible." So you know, we did all we had to do to investigate this breaking in, and there's no way we're going to get them. We thought, but I remember going back to Burwood Police Station, and the word got out. Next thing I know, the guys downstairs who had nothing to do with the job instigated a bit of a money collection.
Yeah.
And we put enough money together as a police station to give to this family
That's
to go out
lovely.
to buy new presents for the kids. And that's not the first time stuff like that's happened.
Yeah.
And this is the 80s, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's good that we talk about this because we always talk about the corruption and whatever. But,
we spoke about this.
That's
we
right.
wanted to touch on the positive stuff
That's right.
and the good things that have happened
That's right.
in your career and what you've seen and yeah. I mean,
So,
it's just too much talk about the minority,
Yeah.
and people think it's the majority because
Yeah.
everybody talks about it so much.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
whereas-
Well, and you know, the news rarely covers. You know, it's a thankless task
Yeah.
being a copper. The firefighters seem to get a fair bit of the, you know. No one ever wants the like. No ladies ever want the cops to turn up in uniform, do they? They always want the fireys to turn up.
Yeah, well, you know, back in the 70s and 80s, the ladies didn't mind us showing up sometimes. But then again, those are stories that we'll talk about off camera.
Yeah. Mate, I just wanted to backtrack to your point about you just going to work, you know, looking the other way and getting on with your job and doing a good job, because I think there's a lesson there for you regardless of what business you're in, that if you turn up, the high performers who I've worked with, they didn't have any time to muck around talking at the water cooler, worrying about what Sharon in accounts is up to, you know, worrying about this person not doing their job. They were just so zeroed in on doing what they needed to do every day that they got great results. And I think it's important that's an important lesson for anyone. You know, if you're wondering why you're not doing very well at work, or why you're not getting good results, and so is, maybe you got to have a look at what you're doing every day, and how productive you are at whatever job you're doing.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
To nail it, because because it's very easy to get distracted if you want to get involved in this and listen to this and spend time on that. Well, that's time you're not applying to your business, or time you're not applying to your work role.
I think because there are plenty of opportunities for people, and some people will take the opportunities, and other people might go part of the way of taking the opportunities, and other people might dwell on them not being successful and spend more time dwelling on what could have been.
Yeah.
So it's up to everybody to prioritise their lives and take control themselves, you know.
Yeah.
And When I talk about my police work and that, I don't want people to think that I was the best, because I was nothing really in the policing world. I was just someone who was conscientious and trying to do the right thing every day. Because I used to work and look up to a lot of police officers who were high flyers, and who pushed beyond anyone's comfort zone to get the job done. And I admired them. You know, I personally couldn't do it. I was someone who came to work every day, and I did my job, and I took pride in it. And I think sometimes I used to think too deeply about stuff that got me in a little bit of strife later on in life as you get older. But, you know, everyone has an opportunity. It's a matter of the way they were brought up, if they can prioritise their lives and take control of stuff, you know, because people make the mistake of waiting for things to happen sometimes.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah, they do.
And so sorry to cut you off.
No, you go for it.
So you mentioned before there was a couple of guys that you looked up to and you learn a lot from any particular things that you took away from these guys that you use in your life today, and any positive things that they've taught you that you utilise now?
I think you know, a lot of that stuff happened when you're young, and then you develop from that, right? And then because I was so insular in myself, I didn't have to spend time with cliques or groups. I made my own rules as I went along. And it was based up on what they told me, and basically was to always try to do the right thing, and be true to yourself, and, you know, don't allow other people to have a negative impact on your life. So I always did my own thing, and I've got very close friends, right? But I don't depend on them to make my life good or bad. I do it myself. And that's one thing I've walked away. And I've been retired from the cops now for 14 years. And I still live like that now. You know, I still do my own thing. Like when I started this Bowhunters thing,
Yep.
I got that idea from going to Canada and going to an indoor archery range at Canada
Yeah.
on a hunting trip. And I looked at that and I went, oh, we need one of those in Sydney. So when I retired and I got the job at St Mary's, I worked there for 10 years as an instructor at St Mary's Indoor Shooting Range, I thought, oh, we could do that here on a mini scale. It did take a couple of years before they kind of opened up to it, because they couldn't, because they're all rifle shooters.
Yeah.
They couldn't work out, well, how's archery going to happen in here?
Yeah.
But now, as you guys know, 67 years on, it's getting huge, and they see it. They see it. Obviously, they're making money out of it as well, and we're getting sponsorship. Yeah. We're going to have a huge, big shoot-off at the end of the year with sponsorship prizes, you know, valuing almost $2,000 worth of prizes we're going to have.
Yeah, it just takes one person
Yeah.
who's got a clear vision outside the box.
Yeah.
And some drive, you know.
And some time as a retired man.
Time's huge.
Yeah, it is. Definitely. It is. And I love it too, so it's a passion.
So tell us, so you retired from the police.
Yeah.
Or is there anything else that we're missing in your police career that you wanted to touch on?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't want to go into too much depth on that, because, I mean, you know, policing's policing. But I think the main thing I wanted to make was I didn't want to sound like I was some superhero cop or nothing. I wanted people to realise that I was just a hard-working guy.
Yeah. I
tried to do the right thing, you know. And it's interesting because we talked about this before about men's health and stuff. Mm-hmm. Well, what changed me was in my policing career was when you're in the police, you spend a lot of time dealing with victims of crime.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you're young, you know, you don't take it in so much. It's water off a duck's back. You see victims of crime. You see dead people. You see people injured. You see people injured in motor vehicle accidents. You see people injured by other people, both mentally and physically. Yeah. You know, I went to a lot of suicides in my career. And what I found was, as I got older, I found it harder to deal with, right? And I started I felt like I started taking it upon, started taking their grief personally. And I found it hard, and that's why eventually I had to make a decision, to retire, because otherwise it was going to affect me mentally and maybe physically. I didn't want that to happen. So again, because I did what I always did what I wanted to do in life, I had to make a decision. It did take a bit of coaxing, but I ended up making a decision. And it was a good decision.
And did anyone help you? Did anyone help you talk that through, or with yourself, or
I spent a lot of time. I spent a lot of time talking to police officers who had been diagnosed with PTSD.
Yeah.
Spent a lot of time talking to my wife. She was a true support, and I got introduced to a psychologist and a psychiatrist who were a little bit different.
Through the police or outside the police?
Outside, but they dealt with a lot of police and a lot of military people, and it was great because they were different, and I like different.
So what's stood out with this psychiatrist or psychologist?
Both. I saw psychologists.
I always get the two confused. I know one can prescribe medication,
That's
the
right.
other one doesn't.
The psychologist was great because he kind of instigated me talking about stuff more openly, and he gave me some tools to deal with it. And then I got introduced to the psychiatrist, and because I'd seen a good psychologist, I was ready to talk to him.
Yep.
And what was good about him was he didn't necessarily believe in medication,
Okay.
because the medication thing scared me.
Yep. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah,
You know.
and we're all great. We all know what that means. And but he used hypnotherapy every session.
The psychiatrist use hypnotherapy.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
every session.
Yeah, that sounds like two totally different things coming
Yeah,
together.
it was sensational. It was awesome.
I've heard a lot of good things about the hypnotherapy stuff.
Yeah.
We've spoken about the hypnotherapy
Yeah.
before with each other. But yeah, how long ago was that? Like 14 years ago?
Yeah, it was 2009, 2008, 2009.
So did you start with any of this treatment prior to leaving the police, or you finished with the cops and then got into the...
It was happening while I was still in the police, but I was on leave.
Okay.
So I had to take time off.
Yep. Yeah.
And,
So when you say hypnotherapy, a lot of people think it's what you see on telly.
Yeah, it's
sort of
nothing
magical.
like that.
Okay. It's not like that.
no.
No. So go through what sort of stuff that they...
He developed through him and I talking openly about things. He then developed a program for me.
To get you under
Yeah.
hypnosis,
Yeah.
and then talk about specific things while you're under
That's right.
hypnosis.
And it was all about me shedding all these
Or the trauma or the grief?
all the trauma
or
of
yeah.
victims,
Yep.
because I was taking the trauma upon myself.
Yep.
And not only that, also shedding, and he used my police badge, my police identification, as part of the shedding. So I had to kind of visualise shedding all that stuff.
Okay.
during
What?
the
So like you're hanging up the badge?
Yeah, just
and-
that. Well,
and
he
letting
used
it
it.
go,
He used
or
because he knew my outdoor lifestyle.
yeah.
He used the outdoor. See, it's pretty smart, right? He used the outdoor. Like, he had a tree that was dedicated to me
Yeah.
in one of my favourite fields or paddocks or hills with a stream,
So you're visualising all this
and I'm
stuff.
visualising
So
it.
you're not asleep. You're there, but you're in
That's
this
right.
state,
That's right.
consciousness,
Yep.
and he's getting you to visualise his stuff.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the tree I was part of the tree. I was part of the outdoors, and the stream was where everything I shed
Oh yeah.
flowed
And
away.
it ran away. Yeah. That's beautiful, actually.
It is. It is. And the best part about it was he taped every session. So then for that week between sessions, I would take that tape home
Okay.
and listen to it before I went to bed.
Yeah. Reinforce
Yeah.
the behaviour that he was
Yeah.
changing, or
Yeah.
yeah. Wow.
So
That's an really interesting. I haven't had much to do with psychiatrists. I have a little bit to do with psychologists, and that's an and I've done some hypnosis. That's a really interesting thing for a psychiatrist to be doing.
yeah, that's why I loved him, because he was so different,
Yeah. Wow.
and I love different. And it was
Yeah. A lot of psychiatrists are just like let's try and get your medication sorted out
Yeah.
and adjust this level and adjust that level and then give that a go for a couple of months and see how you go.
Yeah, and then we'll talk to you then and deal with the other stuff
Yeah.
then. Whereas it's a bit of a band-aid. Yeah, I get it. In certain cases it's necessary, but I think where you can go down different avenues and, you seem like you're already open enough to discuss these things.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it was. So it was. So when I took it home, the tape was a form of meditation. Then I used the tape as a form of meditation, and I used to do it every day. I relied on it, because I had got to the stage before this all, when I was still working in the cops. I got to the stage where, I'd wake up every day between 2 and 4, and I'd get up and I have to take the dog for a run
In the middle of the
night
kind of
so I
thing.
couldn't sleep.
Right.
And so taking the dog for a run, I think made me feel that I was getting all this negative energy out.
Yeah.
I
Definitely gets all good chemicals flowing.
Then I'd get up and go to work.
At what time?
Well,
So would you then go back to bed? You take the dog for a run?
No,
Or
I'd
then
go
you
home,
stay up?
have a shower, shave, get my suit on, go to work.
Yeah. So you'd figured out a way of coping through that.
Yeah, but it wasn't working.
But it wasn't
Yeah.
working.
No,
It was a Band-Aid too.
it was a Band-Aid. It was, and it would have got messy if I hadn't done something about it.
Yeah.
There's only so long you can.
And see, and what was good about the psychologist and the psychiatrist, right? I was so lucky to find these two guys
Sounds like it.
because I made sure that they understood how important the outdoors, my outdoor lifestyle was
Yeah.
to me, to help me get through this, right?
And mate, had you been not able to while you're working? Had you been sort of not able to pursue that outdoor lifestyle as much as you need?
You know what it's like when you're working full time.
Yeah.
When you do get some time off and you try to go bush, it's always in a rush.
Yeah.
And you go, okay, I'm going this weekend or whatever.
Yeah.
You pack your gear, you go.
Yeah.
And before you know it, you're back in the office.
Yeah.
Right? So it just wasn't enough. But see, the thing is that I didn't think I needed to rely on my outdoor lifestyle to keep me mentally sane.
Yeah.
Right?
You didn't have that connection.
No, it didn't. It was just something I had to do.
Holding those two things connected.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the two guys, the psychiatrist and psychologist, the best part about them was that they didn't judge me. They asked me all about my hunting and stuff, and they didn't judge me. They didn't have an opinion.
Yeah.
They didn't care. They just knew that, we've got to help this guy,
Yeah.
and this is very important to him, and we have to make sure that he's able to do it. Right? And I think that got me through it, especially when I had to renew my license. We're talking about that.
Yeah. 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 Well, I don't know. Maybe we'll come back to that. Let's.
Sure.
Then you've retired from the coppers.
Yeah.
So then, what are you going to do to earn some money from that point?
Well, I had my police pension, right?
Yeah.
But
What'd you get into? Maybe that's a better.
You meet a lot of people in our hunting community. And I used to go to meetings and all that sort of stuff. And there was one guy I met, Steve Hatz, and he used to work at St Mary's Indoor Shooting Range. And Steve come up to me at a meeting one day, and I was kind of lost, thinking, what am I going to do now? And he said, I heard you retired from the cops. I said, yeah. He said, you want a job at St Mary's at the indoor shooting range? I said, oh, really? He said, I'll get you a job there. I'll put a good word in for you. Anyway, to cut the story short, he did. Got me a job there. It changed everything for me.
Wow.
Gave you some purpose again.
Exactly. And plus, I was able to work on, be involved in teaching other people about hunting.
Yep.
Right. So I was able to throw myself now into my outdoor life.
Yeah.
And I just never looked back after that mentally. I mean, it was just perfect. And basic Steve and a couple of other guys like Andy Mallon, and that just basically kind of changed my life.
Yeah. Wow.
And the outdoor thing all of a sudden became part of my soul.
Yeah.
Almost, you know.
Yeah, that's
Like the universe took you in the direction that you.
It's amazing how things happen, isn't it, Dave?
Yeah.
I don't believe in coincidences. Things happen. No? If Steve hadn't come up to me that day at that meeting, and I remember as clear as day.
Yeah.
If he hadn't come up to me at that meeting, I don't know what I would have been doing. Really.
That's a great story.
And so, were you bow hunting at that point, or were you just?
You know, the bow hunting thing, I hunted most of my life, right? And, had firearms and did all the training and that type of stuff and used to hunt semi-regularly. And when I retired, I made a decision that, okay, I'm gonna go outdoors and and hunt every 4 to 6 weeks. After negotiating with my wife, and she agreed, it happened. And it played a big part of my life. And I started working with a lot of property owners and managing feral game herds on their property. I started guiding, right? Started guiding full time at one stage.
How long were you doing the guiding for?
I think I did it for about 4 years. And then things changed on the neighbouring properties. They started culling the animals and it wasn't a viable thing, but I still stayed on that property managing his animals. And now I just do the same thing. I still manage his animals and with a couple other guys, and we look after him financially to keep the animals under control.
Did you find when you started doing it for work, it changed
It didn't.
a bit, or you just
It didn't.
kept
It was
loving
great.
it? Just
I loved it.
Yeah.
It was great. And it was great because I took the attitude of, people were watching a lot of hunting stuff on YouTube or buying DVDs. And I wanted to make sure that when they come on a hunt with me, they kind of virtually live their own DVD hunting movie, right?
But Charlie, can you just because we've got a bit of a broad audience of all different sorts of
Sure.
things. So you just touch on guiding, what that is, what that represents for the property owner, what that represents for when you say managing the animals, managing the feral animal herds. Can you just touch on what that is?
So, I've been lucky. I've always had access to properties, and through you meet people in your life. And I was lucky enough to have good access to properties. So, when I retired, and there was a couple of properties. I thought these would be good properties to be able to manage. So then, we got we basically talked to the property owners about the herd of, say, for example, feral deer, and we got a game management plan put together for that particular property from some university in Queensland that Andy had put together. I think he was doing a game management course. And there was way too many deer on this property, right? And unfortunately, in Australia, we have this bad habit. We do nothing, populations explode, and then we go out and just shoot and poison the shit out of everything.
Yeah, which is an enormous waste of resource.
It is. It is.
And it's really cruel on the property owner and the animals to manage in that fashion.
That's right. So it's just not a good thing. So what we said to him was, you've got this many animals we believe living on your property. We're happy to manage it on your behalf, but we need to initially cull so many hundred animals. We need the numbers to get to a certain number, and we did that. We basically culled, according to the management plan, which is mainly dealing with females and cull bucks. And then once we got the numbers down, that only took about 18 months. And then I started guiding full time for both trophy hunting and meat hunts.
Mm-hmm.
Guiding. So someone's coming, contacting you, and you're going to take them around the property that you know.
So basically, what it is that people would book a hunt with me, and they would specify that it was either a meat hunt or a trophy hunt. And I know some people think, oh yeah, trophy hunting is shit, but it's not. All trophy hunting is a meat hunt with antlers.
Yep.
That's all it is, right? So, but you pay more for it.
Yeah.
Right? And the reason we do that is that it's like anything. Once you add a price to the head of an animal and it becomes valuable, the property owners will then really look after the animals.
Yep.
And in this case, leave it to me.
Yep.
Right. So so someone would book a hunt with me. I take them out, say 3 or 4 day hunt. Generally, I'll pick them up, and if they're in Sydney, I'll pick them up and we drive down together, or I meet them down near the property. We have a house to stay on the property, which I was paying rent on. Mm-hmm. I was fully insured for the whole thing, and we would hunt, and it would be all about hunting ethically. One of my main goals was to try to not only give the hunter a good hunting experience, but hopefully they walk away learning something. So I started getting a lot of guys who were first-time hunters.
Yeah.
Right, and that was a big thing because I love the idea of teaching people how great hunting is.
Yep.
If you really hunt, not shooting from cars or spotlighting or anything like that, just all on foot. So it was a lot of walking, a lot of physical back-breaking work, breaking down animals and carrying them back. But I know for a fact that when the guy or the girl we get back to the car and they take that backpack off.
Yep.
I know for a fact that they loved every minute of it.
So that challenge and the struggle,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
the adversity that they had to face to get back to the car,
Yeah.
enriches the experience.
It does. And it goes beyond that. Butchering, cooking, feeding friends and family over a bottle of red, you know, it just adds to it.
Yeah.
You know, and we used to cook back at the cabin,
Yeah.
you know, and I used to pull out a bowl of red.
Yeah.
You know, we used to,
It's a celebration,
it is a celebration. It's a celebration of everything.
as it always was.
Yeah.
You know, back when we were tribes and living in cavemen. You know,
That's
when you brought back the the quarry,
That's right.
it was a celebration for the
Yeah.
yeah, and it makes the hunters feel good.
That's right.
The whole effort.
Because you know what the best
worthwhile.
part about it was that a lot of these hunters, especially the beginners who had only limited experience, they spent a lot of time watching on YouTube other people hunting. And they go, oh, I want to do that, I want to do that. Well, when they come hunting with me or any other guide, they actually doing what they've been watching.
Yeah.
So they get back to the car and they go, fuck,
Yeah.
that was good.
Yeah.
Fuck, it was 20 minutes on YouTube. We've been here all day.
3 days later.
Yeah.
And it's good. I loved it. And I still love it. I still do it sometimes for Raptor Ridge hunts. I still guide with them sometimes. And
But Charlie, the other thing that I wanted to everyone to realise is that for the farmer, he's got a feral animal problem anyway,
correct.
and you're providing a service to manage that, but then providing an income,
That's right.
an additional income stream
That's right.
for him. So, you know, what do you, how much would you? Is there a dollar figure or something you could throw out there? Say, hey, we would return to the farmer X amount of dollars, you know, per.
You know, when you negotiate with a farmer, a property owner, the most important thing is that you don't bullshit them,
Yep.
and you have to be upfront, right? If the numbers are good, they're going to make good money. So if someone shoots a trophy,
Yep.
and they pay $1,000 for a trophy, say,
Yep.
right? I'm not saying this are the figures, but I'm just saying
Yeah.
as an example. And you have 10 clients in that year that shoot 10 trophies, right?
Yep.
And you also charge $300 for a meat animal, and you have 20 or 30 meat animals shot that year. The money from those deer that I just quoted you would go to a property owner.
Yep.
Right.
And so that's one equation that could happen, or the way the government want to handle it. What happens
Well, see,
if we let it go too far?
so unfortunately, in Australia, like I said before, we do nothing, populations explode, and then we just shoot the shit out of everything. So we're going through a stage right now where, like for example, in South Australia and some parts of New South Wales, and in some parts of Victoria as well, I think, is that governments are taking it upon themselves to utilise helicopter shoots, where helicopters fly over areas and just shoot animals. Right, so to me, it's a waste of a resource. And a lot of people, I know people are going to disagree with me, and some people are going to go off, but I'll say it anyway. It's not the right way to treat animals.
No,
You know,
because what happens to those animals once the helicopter's flown over and flung a heap of bullets down,
helicopter will fly over animals and shoot them, and keep flying.
and just leave them there?
Yeah,
Such a waste.
and not only it's a waste, they don't. I mean, look, again, I'm going to get some flack for this again. I've never shot out of a helicopter. I don't know. I have been on properties where helicopters have flown over, and I have seen animals shot.
Oh, really?
Left to right, right, all right. And I have seen animals on 2 occasions in my life where I've had to put the animals down myself.
Wow.
Because, you know, and I'm not blaming the helicopter guys because they're out to make money, right?
They're
That's the
doing
way
a
the
job.
government's
They've been
paying
employed
them,
to do a job.
right?
Yep.
But they also have to make money, and money comes from how much fuel they use and how much flying time. They're not always going to go back and check
Yeah.
once they put a bullet in an animal. They haven't got time to do that. It's
Yeah.
not viable, right? So, I mean, that's the reality of stuff. I mean, you know, again,
I've
I know
wondered
people are going
that
to get the
too.
shit of me saying this, but that's how I see it.
No, I've wondered that too. And I actually wrote a letter when I found out there was an aerial cull going to happen. I wrote a letter to my local member for parliament expressing my dislike to that method, because I had that same question going through my head. How do if I'm being told as an ethical hunter when I do my R license course that I need to clearly identify my target, be set up, make sure the I've got good backing, perform an ethical shot, make sure there's no, young, if there are any young, you've got to dispatch them. I'm thinking, okay, so I've got to go through all these processes, and then to do a good shot with the rifle, I need to make sure I'm nice and steady. I'm thinking, how are you flying over a pine forest with a helicopter, pulling off good shots? And I mean, these guys are professional shooters. They are far better shots than I am. But how are you flying over a pine forest, shooting deer ethically, and then making sure they're quickly, out of their misery? I'm thinking, I just don't even know how you're doing that.
It's hard to say, but look, I don't want to be too critical of these guys because they're just running a business, and also too, like, I don't want to be critical of any property owners either. I mean, it's in the end, it's their property.
Yep.
And they're allowed to manage it any way they want.
Yeah.
Right. And so if a property owner makes a decision to have that done on his property, fine, that's his decision.
Yeah.
I'm just lucky enough to be able to work with some property owners that are happy to do it a different way. I mean, it's contentious. Some people are going to disagree, but
So one way you're sort of wasting the taxpayers' money, and the other way you're actually...
Yeah. So, I don't like trying to convince other people to think my way. It's just the way I think.
No, but I like that the management aspect and getting hunters who are ethical.
Yeah.
Ethical people who are going to do the right thing on your property. It's an option. It's an option for farmers, and it's an additional income stream.
Yeah.
And I think most farmers, are looking for more than one income stream. If you're just waiting for the cattle prices to get to the right level so that you can sell cows, if that doesn't happen, and you've got an additional income stream, well, it's not as big a hit.
Gives hunters an opportunity to be able to speak to property owners.
Yeah.
In a different way. So it's just always just begging for access.
It's a different conversation.
Yeah, it's a different conversation. Yeah.
How's your experiences been, gaining access to properties, and what's your approach been? Because I know it's, me and Luke have spoken about it a few times. We haven't actually put in the groundwork because it is a bit of work getting around, talking to people, meeting property owners.
I think, David, I was lucky because I just think back now. There's two properties that I've been hunting on for over 30 years. And it's just back in those days, you'd meet people, you speak to people, and they go, "Yeah, you can come up anytime," because people didn't think the way people think these days, where it's really hard to get access now.
Yeah.
So and I always try to do the right thing by property owners, and so that's why I've been hunting on those two properties for 30 years. The other couple of properties I've been hunting on for 10, 12, 13 years as well. So it's just a matter of doing the right thing. But it's hard to get access. We've talked about it.
Yeah.
It's hard to get access,
Yeah, you got to put in the work, that's for sure.
Yeah. Do you think that's because hunters have got a bit of a bad rap?
Maybe. There's a lot of hunters. There's a lot more hunters now than there used to be too. There's a lot of competition, One thing I learned about when I worked at St Mary's Indoor Shooting Range, I was flabbergasted by the amount of people. I mean, like the firearms testing was run 3 days a week. I think they run 4 courses a week back then. for the firearms testing for people to get their shooter's license, right? And I was one of the instructors. Now, the 11 years I worked there, they were booked out solid every time, every week, right? And I just sat there going, there's a lot of people getting into hunting now, and there is, and it's interesting that I met so many hunters who I would describe as probably being early middle aged or late 30s, just getting into hunting for the first time.
Yeah.
So when I was growing up, you've been hunting or shooting guns all your life, and as a kid. And
Charlie, why do you think that is? Why are guys and girls?
a lot of women too now. Unbelievable. A lot of women shooters now.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Why at 30 something are these people having this epiphany and deciding to want to be a hunter?
I think the opportunity. I remember
Financially, time. Are we back to time again? Is it having the time?
I remember when I was, even to this day, if I go somewhere now, like I'm 62 now, right? If I go to,
Oh, you don't look at day over 50, mate.
if I go somewhere now, and I don't go out of my way to talk about hunting if I'm with non-hunters, but if the subject comes up, someone says something, I notice straight away that when I start talking about hunters, 50% of men, especially, they would take a huge interest in it straight away, and they start asking questions. You know, they just there's something there, and their ears would prick, and they go. Some people would say, "I couldn't do that," but they'd have nothing against it. Other guys would say, "I'd love to do that." You know, when you talk about catching and cooking your own, for example, right? I just think that in itself sells the idea that you're not just going out shooting hundreds and hundreds of animals and everything that moves, which is some people's idea of what hunting is. But when you describe to them that you can go hunting, butcher your own animal, take the meat home, people look at that and go, I'd want to do that. You know?
Yeah.
It just changes everything.
I had a conversation with a guy, just a random conversation, because they often see my ute and they go, "Oh, do you do a fair bit of camping or something? Do you?" And I say no. I hunt my own food, and what do you chase? Anyway, this guy said to me the other day, "Oh, what do you do? A bit of shooting, do you?" And I said, "No, I don't. I do hunt a fair bit." And he said, "What do you mean?" You know, because to him it was the same thing.
Yeah.
And then I explained it. You know, so I like that differentiation.
Not just shooting.
No,
Hunting is a completely different thing.
Yeah, and I tell people I actually don't enjoy killing the thing. I actually don't enjoy killing.
Yeah.
That's the part I don't like out of the whole process. I don't enjoy that bit. You know, enjoy everything up to when I release the arrow or release the bullet. And I enjoy everything up to...
You know how you say you don't enjoy killing, right?
Yeah.
I can understand why you say that, but if you think about it, if you do it right and you do it properly and you get a certain amount of satisfaction that you did everything right, you practiced or you sighted in your rifle and you did a perfect job on harvesting an animal and you're butchering it, you've enjoyed killing it. Because it's because you say to yourself, I enjoy everything about it.
But I don't enjoy the death.
The death
Taking
thing,
the life.
but
Taking the life.
But that's something you don't have to think about because you've done everything right to take this animal, and you're going to utilise it.
Oh, I thank him. Well,
Yeah.
I don't, lots of blokes probably do actually.
Yeah.
When I go up after I've, taken the life of something, I go up and I thank it, and I'm gonna. And honestly, mate, if I've cooked some meat and it's in the fridge, I'm eating that before anything else. Like I'm not throwing out one scrap of venison or pork or whatever I've got because to me, I feel like I'm doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
I've took a life, and now I'm throwing out some. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
I'll eat venison for breakfast.
It's interesting. It's interesting, isn't it? Because that's I think that's what
I
I
feel
think
so
that's what's
connected to
changed a lot of stuff in the modern day. You know, if I was to be totally honest, right, which I want to be, when I was growing up as a young kid, we used to just go out and shoot stuff. We shoot goats and pigs. We never took no meat home. Yeah, I'm being totally honest here, right? Just like in the
Yeah, same.
70s.
I'm the same.
Right.
That's what
Back in
turned me
those,
off it.
we just shot everything. We didn't take anything home. And I think that's what's changed. You know, people had, as time went on, people started. I started joining hunting clubs. Right? When I was a kid, I didn't have any. I had no mentors, had no one really teaching me the right thing to do. And all of a sudden, I started joining hunting clubs, and you start to learn and think differently about stuff. Especially when, for example, the new gun laws came in, you had to be a member of a hunting club. People had to join hunting clubs, right, and go to meetings. That made a huge difference to people, and it introduced more ethics in the hunting.
Yeah.
You know,
It probably brought people together too. Like this guy's a shooter, and this guy's a hunter and uses everything.
Yeah.
They sit down at the same table at the meeting, and you have a discussion, and the shooter's going, "Oh, you take it all home and eat it?
yeah,
What do you end up with 40 kilos of meat in your freezer? I don't. Maybe I might try that, and it changes there.
and that's where the opportunities come up, right? So opportunities not only in hunting but also meeting different people,
Yeah.
right? So I think that played a big part in it. I mean, I'm no expert. I'm just kind of looking and watching and making educated guesses.
Yeah.
you know.
Well, you've seen it. You know, you've been around it. You've seen.
And what about the bow hunting thing? I mean, the bow hunting thing's grown. Heaps.
Oh, mate. I started around 2018,
Yeah.
2019.
Exactly.
From then to now,
Yep.
I've seen it every year.
Yep.
Just growing and growing
That's right.
and growing. It's
And
amazing.
we started 7 years ago at the at St Mary's, and I was getting like on a good night I get 10 to 12. We're getting 40 people show up now once a month.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, well, so talk about 3D, because I think that's one thing. One of the benefits with bow hunting versus owning a rifle is you've got these 3D competitions. You know, and the Pean Hunters Club has a
Yeah.
3D. So talk about that, mate.
I always say to people who want to get into bow hunting that they should join a club, right?
Yeah.
That a bow hunting club, and because you get the opportunity to participate and hang around other archers, right? So when we run our Wednesday night hunts, Wednesday night shoots, you know, it's an opportunity for people, especially beginners or like less experienced bow hunters, to hang around with all different types of experienced bow hunters. Yep. We talk hunting and stuff, and we have our targets. We shoot and practice. And we get our pins sighted in, and then, as you know, Dave and Luke, you guys have been there when we have the shoot off and we have 3D targets.
Yep.
Right, and the whole, I try to make every shoot off to be a situation where you have to shoot one arrow at that animal and make it count.
So
To try to replicate the pressure you feel.
And everyone's watching.
And everyone's watching. Everyone's making comments about your shot.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact, for example, Tommy shot a rooster stag this year. And when he wrote to me or rang me, he said when he was taking that shot, all he thought about is what we do on a Wednesday night once a month.
Yeah, wow.
He says he pulled off a 45-metre shot on this rooster stag and killed it.
Yeah, so just for the listeners playing along at home who probably don't know anything about hunting, the 3D archery it's a foam target with a replaceable, in most cases, replaceable insert where you should be hitting the animal with the arrow.
Yeah.
And then we set them at various different distances out to about 50 metres, which is about the effective range. There are guys and girls who can shoot very competently further than that, but 50 metres is probably the limit that most archers are going to take a shot out in the field. And then, there might be half a dozen animals and then half a dozen other targets placed around inside the rifle range under lights. And then the guys, we've got a shooting line that the guys, it's all safe. Charlie will give us the okay to start shooting once the range is clear, and then once everybody's shot their arrows, everyone looks along the line and says, "Yep, we're all good," and then we walk forward and collect our arrows and check whether you hit the animals in the right spot.
Yep.
And there's another 3D event run in Penrith down at is it Penrith Valley Archers?
Penrith City
City Archers.
Yep.
Yeah, which Nepean Hunting Club run throughout the bush, and it's the same sort of thing, only set up in the bush, a bush environment of various different ranges. You can use your rangefinder and everything, and there's guys and girls and kids and young people and old people and every walk of life down there.
Yeah.
So that's the benefit of archery is you get to sort of replicate what you do. Whereas if you've got a rifle, you're pretty much limited to you sit on the bench, or stand at the bench and shoot at crosshairs, or a proper target. So that's one of the benefits of archery is you can do it more often and replicate the reality.
Look, I would recommend anyone, if we want to get into archery, to join an archery club. As you know, there's two types of archery. Three. There's target archery, which is like Olympic archery and target archery, which I do as well. And then you got bow hunting. But for bow hunters, there's a great opportunity if you want to improve by joining a 3D club.
Yep.
Like there's Nepean Bowhunters. There's our monthly shoot in Sydney, for example. I'm also a member at the Manly Warringah Field Archers, which have a 3D shoot every month.
Oh yeah.
Right, and they have a great club there. You can go up there any day of the week as a member. They have a practice range that goes from 10 metres to 70 metres.
Yeah, right.
And then they have 3 courses, right? White, red and blue. And on those courses, there's 20 targets.
Each.
Yep.
Wow.
So, for example, I could take you guys there. There's park benches there. We could have lunch, have a practice at the range, and now I go, okay, we'll go down and do the white course. And we'll walk down together. It's like a game of golf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We walk up. There's a
Love to go
marker.
down there.
There's a marker. We look at the target. It's like, okay. Now, for practice, you can use rangefinders, but their 3D comps are 3D animals.
Yeah.
Unknown distance. No rangefinder.
Yeah, so you've got to guess.
Yeah, and that puts a lot of pressure on you. And so that's really great way. Now, when I go hunting, I always use a rangefinder, right?
Oh, if you've got the opportunity.
Absolutely, I always use a rangefinder.
Yeah.
But going to shoot a 3D comp where there's no rangefinder, it's hard.
Yeah.
Next level.
I find it hard. Yeah. So when I go there, I use that as an opportunity to put myself under a lot of pressure to make that one shot count.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's a great opportunity, great way to improve your bow hunting skills. Not that you're going to go out and guess distances when you're hunting, but to go out there and shoot under pressure. And everyone's watching you. You've got a group of 4 blokes watching you and scorecards and everything.
Charlie, have you seen some kids come through who sort of are benefiting from being part of this community?
Yeah. Well, a lot of clubs have kids. Even us. I mean, I got an email the other day from the St Mary's Centre asking, are there any? Just wanted to clarify if there's any age limits. There is no age limits, right?
Yeah, because I saw a little fella there the other day, and he was,
he beat his dad in the shoot off that day.
Did he?
Yeah, sensational. His name's Jess.
Yeah, wow.
He did a great job. He was using lighted knocks too, which is impressive. He says,
that's cool.
Little kids shoot this lighted knock and hit the 10 ring, and he beat his dad. And his dad's a good shot, so it was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it was a lot of fun. But we've had 6-year-olds and 8-year-olds shoot with us.
Yeah,
on that Wednesday night.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not many things you can do with your 6 or 8-year-old that you can be shooting at the same time they're shooting.
How good's that?
It's amazing.
How good's that?
Yeah,
and they get to teach them, good form, good ethical thinking, all that type of stuff. Just doesn't get any better than that.
Mate, what do you think are the benefits for the guys and the girls coming along? What are they getting out of it?
Well, one, they're getting a place where they can go after work, rain, hail or shine, where they can shoot their bows. They don't have to try to squeeze it in during a weekend. They're getting to shoot with other people of the same experience or more experienced. I mean, we have people there that are long-time bow hunters. We have people there like Jono, who's a Paralympic champion, who will not only coach them for free on the night, but also tinker with their bows to get them all the form right. Plus, they get to shoot targets from 10 metres to 50 metres. They can shoot their broadheads, right, which I love, because, I mean, you can't really shoot broadheads at other clubs, right? So I can take my broadhead targets. You get to bring your own broadhead target. I can take it on the night, like I'm going to do next Wednesday before I go to Cape York, and I'm going to shoot broadheads at 30 and 40 metres, right, to make sure that my bow's properly tuned and ready to go. Right, and plus then the other benefit is, besides all the practice and all the fun, is that we have a shoot-off where there's prize giveaways. You know? I mean, where else can you...
And now you got some... sorry.
Yeah, and we've got some sponsors as well.
You got some
That's
sponsors,
right. So besides the fact that we've got St Mary's Indoor Shooting Centre to host it, we've got Abbey Archery, who provide a $50 gift voucher every month. And now, just come on board, is Hunter's Element. And now donating some prizes.
Awesome.
Well done, mate.
Exactly. And at the end of the year, when we have our big shoot on the 9th of December, which is going to be an indoor 3D archery shoot, similar to the American ASA shoots, we're going to have, we'll have close to $2,000 worth of prize money. And I want to dish it out all the way down the line, so everyone benefits.
We like tennis.
Yeah.
Well, you keep going, mate. We're going to have Mark Philippoussis and these guys will start shooting. You know, we can get a bit of prize money.
We'll smoke them.
Yeah.
So anyone looking to start that hasn't picked up a bow before, what would you recommend? Just go out and buy a bow and just try
Firstly, if you're going to buy a bow, go to a good archery shop.
Plug it.
Stay off eBay.
Abbey Archery sponsor us.
Yep.
Right. Depending on where you live, but Abbey Archery sponsor us. You can go there, make an appointment, and you'll get fitted. Because you just don't buy a bow and just take it home and shoot it. As you know,
because guys can get the wrong advice, can't they?
Exactly.
Like if you just turn up to any place that sells bows.
Or people are buying them on eBay, going and just shooting with, and they're not.
That's a disaster.
And this is
waiting to happen.
expensive equipment too.
Yeah.
You know, so you can go to Abbey Archery, get fitted out.
So when you say fitted out,
So you know, because when you buy a bow,
it
has to be fitted to you for draw length. Make sure that the poundage is right for you to be able to draw back. You need the right type of sights for your bow so you can shoot straight. You need a release aid. You need to buy arrows. So you need good advice from people who work in a pro shop.
And everything needs to sort of be working together. So the arrows need to suit the amount of weight that you're shooting.
That's correct.
Because it is, because it is, it is quite technical.
Yeah.
And I mean, you guys know what I'm like. I don't care at all about the specs and the technical bit. So for me, it's really important for me to get good advice because I'm really relying on that advice. Just get me set up. And I remember when I went and saw Jono when he was living in the mountains and dropping my stuff off, and he was tuning me up in it, and you know he wanted to know this and that and everything. And I said, mate, I've no idea what you're talking about. And he said, okay, just, check me out, and then just said, leave it with me. And then when I went back, the thing was throwing the most perfect arrows. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. But some people want to know all the technical ins and outs. But I suppose my point is, if you don't get the right advice, there are so many things that are going to make you shoot poorly. Yes, you'll buy something that can throw arrows, but you'll never get a decent group. If you don't get the right advice, you're never going to get consistent. You're never going to get a decent group of arrows. And then if you are hunting, you're going to go out and blow opportunities and wound things. Well, it is important.
It is important, right? Because if you're going to take up a lifestyle where you're going to kill another living creature, right, without sounding too sentimental, you got a responsibility to do it right. Okay? Now, I've been hunting for a long time, and I've done some things that I wish I hadn't done. Because that's life.
Yeah.
You learn as you go, right?
Yeah, so have I.
Yeah. So So I learnt real quick because I didn't want to go through that shit again. With all my rifles are sighted in exactly the same.
Yeah.
Right. And before I go for a hunt, I don't use my guns much anymore. Before I do take a rifle for a hunt, I'll take it to the range and put a couple through it. Sometimes I'll just go there and fire 2 shots and walk out.
Just so you know.
So I know I feel good about it, right? Yep. And that's rifle shooting. But with bow hunting, it's even more important because bow hunting really is marginal. And if you just buy a bow and think you're going to go hunting, well, you're not doing the sport any service. So that's why I say to people: get fitted at our pro shop, join a club, shoot your bow often, talk to people who know what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
Because I started shooting target archery to become a better bow hunter.
Yeah.
Because I was never going to. I started late, so I was never going to be great. But I tell you now, I've been bow hunting for 25 years maybe. I shoot my bow better now, hunting, than I ever have, ever. Right? And I'm no good at technical stuff either. Well, my wife describes me as the most unhandiest person she knows. So I kind of wear that badge with honour because I'm just hopeless, right? So I depend on people like Jono or Ian Summers when he's in Sydney and that to get my bow shooting straight. When I know that, and I trusted that when they serviced my bow, I can go out and shoot it, and I practice and I shoot. I mean, I can tell you straight now, I shoot my bows every day.
Yeah.
Every day. There's not a day that doesn't go by. I'll go this afternoon and shoot my bow for an hour and a half.
Wow.
Because one is I love shooting my bows. Two, I love the experience of bow hunting when I do it right.
Yeah.
I spoke to you about that boar I shot last week, right?
Go through that again if you.
Well, that was probably the best.
Maybe not with the finish part where you
yeah, we won't talk
where
about
you talk
that.
about what you said to God after that.
Yeah. But I see now you threw me. But the thing is that pig hunt's a great example last week. I snuck up on that boar and I had no idea he was there. I actually was standing there thinking it's going to get dark. I might take a leak and head back to the car. And I just looked down, there was a fresh pile of pig shit right in front of me. And I just looked to my left and I thought, I'm going to just have a look over this little rise. And as I started kind of climbing up the rise, I could see 2 spotted boars feeding out in the middle. And I thought, oh, that looked good. And then all of a sudden, I could see the back of this thing just beyond the ridge. And I just got to my knees. And I knocked the arrow, got my release aid on. And when I first started bow hunting, I always made the mistake of rushing everything, right? Working with Jono and being involved in target archery taught me to slow everything down. And then this is what's happened over the last 3 years for me, is that everything just slows down. And I just stayed on my knee. This thing was feeding, it wasn't going to go anywhere. And I just said to myself, just wait. And I looked up, I just lifted my head, I could see his back just there, I could see his feeding, and I just slowly got to a crouch and started walking towards him. I knew I was going to be sub 20, or about 22 metres. And as I came to a full draw, I stood up and all of a sudden he just appeared there in front of me, side on, with his head down feeding. His ears were flopped down over his head. He had floppy ears.
Totally relaxed.
I had no idea. And I just looked at him and I just drew back, come to anchor, lined up the pin, and I just said to myself, just wait. And I just then went through my process, wrapped my thumb around my trigger, and just started pulling. And just looking at the pin, just started pulling. And all of a sudden, the shot breaks. I watch the arrow just pass through behind the elbow. He runs down the hill, he stops and looks back. And I stood there, the other 2 boars were looking back, and then all of a sudden, he just went and rolled down the hill. And I just sat there and I thought, it just doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah.
You know?
All your practice.
And if I was to describe that scenario to you, say 10 years ago, before I started competitive archery, I would have said to you, I put the pin on it and I just punched that shot like a rifle, right? And I made so many mistakes doing that in my life, But now I very rarely do that. Everything just slows right down. And that's what's good about these Wednesday night shoots, because we get to practice and reinforce that. And I know we all talk about it at the time too. Everyone's talking about it all the time.
Mate, something else that I think's a massive. Well, I think it's really cool about the Wednesday night shoots. You know, early on you said you copped racism here in Australia because you were Maltese. Then when you went to Malta, you copped racism there because you were Australian.
That's right.
One thing I love about this bow hunting community is it's everyone. It's every race, nationality.
Yeah.
All there. Everyone just mingles and no one notices. No one sees
They're
that you're a
colourblind.
Muslim or you're a white, Aussie
Anglo.
redneck or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just how you going? Have you been out shooting? Have you been? What's been happening? Tell us about that trip. And I noticed, because I sort of look back and go, where else is this going on?
I know.
Like what racism, and you hear about all
It's true.
this racism in the world, and I think there's none here.
I mean, how good is it? How good is it?
I
mean,
love it.
I stand there. Sometimes, like you said before, I don't even take my bow sometimes.
Yeah.
Right. And I just love it. I stand there. I can't even identify a dickhead amongst them.
No.
I mean, they're the greatest bunch of people, really.
know.
I mean, like, everyone just shows up. We're all thinking about the same thing. All we do is talk hunting and bow hunting.
Yeah.
All we need now is a bar at the back of the thing so we can have a drink. I mean,
Yeah.
it just doesn't get any better.
Yeah.
I mean, how good is it?
It's great.
I know. I just love it. I can't wait every month. I just show up every month thinking this is great.
Well, I just wanted to say congratulations on that, because you truly have built a little community which just grew sort of organically and just got more and more. And like I can't come every Wednesday when it's on, but like the transition from now I've got to line up. I've got to wait till 4 lines have gone through before I get to shoot an arrow, because you've just been so successful.
But you don't mind it because you've got people to hang around with.
Catching up with blokes that you haven't seen.
Sometimes I don't even worry about it. I just go,
and we all see each other on Facebook every day. I mean,
Yeah.
it's funny because we're basically see each other once a month, but we're interacting on Facebook,
Yeah.
and Instagram
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
I'll put posts up. Someone else will put a post up, and we all comment on stuff. And there's not a negative word said amongst anybody.
No, it's very positive. That's what I love about it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. That's why I encourage people to come to it.
What do you want it to be? Have you got a vision for this thing in 2 or 3 years?
Look, I want it to be a place where bow hunters can congregate and shoot their bows and be part of a group, men and women, right?
Yeah.
I want the sponsorship to continue because I want to make sure that the bow hunters that come to this thing get something out of it. It's not only just a practice, but get something out of it.
Yep.
I want the yearly shoot to get bigger.
Yeah.
I'm going to run it as a 3D shoot indoors, but eventually what I want to do is, the St Mary's indoor
Yep.
range, right? I want, say for example, instead of having it in range A only, we take over the whole range,
Yeah.
right? And we have a 3D safari shoot.
Yeah.
We start in
And you
the
have like
workshop.
200 people turn up.
Yeah, you start in the workshop
Yeah.
and you walk into the first range, which is 25 metres. Yeah, look up and there's 3 animals. Shoot them, score them, walk through the door into range A, come back. Then you've got 3 animals at, say, 30 to 50 metres. Shoot them, score them. Walk out of that range B, same. Walk out of that range into range C, same. So you're virtually walking through the whole range, shooting 3D animals and scoring it, coming out the other end with a score.
That sounds awesome.
Is this
It
for the
does.
annual shoot?
That's
or?
what I'd love to do. Yeah.
Have you shared that vision with the
Yep.
SSAA?
The centre?
the centre?
Yep, I have.
Yeah.
Make a full day event of
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
And they'd be seeing the numbers turning up now,
Yeah.
going, well, we're certainly getting to that point.
Yeah,
And I've noticed they've also starting to sell a few little bits and bobs for
that's right.
the archers. So
And they're loving it. They're seeing something out of it. I spoke to the CEO of the place, Jay, and he's a lovely guy. He's going to get fitted for a bow.
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, I mean,
come
if the
in-
CEO of the centres starts bow hunting,
Yeah.
then he's going to be all.
He's going to
all
come
in.
and join us.
Yeah.
Now, What about that? Because it's on once a month now. Is it first Wednesday of the month?
Second
or
Wednesday
second
of each month,
Wednesday of each month. Would you go another day if there was someone to? Because I know you said it's hard for you to get there.
Look, it's a hard one because I don't want to water it down.
Yeah.
I'm not saying no. At this stage, I think we'll keep it once a month because once a month comes around real quick.
Yeah.
Well, I said it to my wife this morning. I said I got archery this Wednesday. It's this Wednesday, right? This week.
This week.
Yeah, and she said to me again because it comes around so quick.
Very quick.
I say the same with my wife and her hair appointments. Didn't you go last week? She go, no, that was eyebrows. Yeah, right. So, well, the other thing I wanted to sort of just touch on was, are you concerned about anything with the sport? Are you concerned about any directions, any pressures that are coming? Like you spoke about South Australia. And how can people help? Like people who are listening or
Look,
hunter or non-hunter.
it's a hard one, because all my life I've been hunting. Up until about the mid-'80s, I was never worried about stuff, all right? But then things started changing, and we did have a couple of major incidences,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. 96 was a
Yeah.
big.
Well, that was even before that, 88 in Stratford Massacre.
Yeah,
88.
right. Yeah.
We even had, I remember when I was at Burwood, we had a guy.
You would have been on the job then, weren't you?
I was. I remember at Burwood, we had a guy with a semi-automatic 308.
Wow.
He shot 2 people at Redfern, and they followed him in a car. The police followed him in a car all the way to Burwood. He gets out of Burwood, opposite the Burwood Westfields,
Yep.
and gets out of the car and starts opening fire on police cars.
Oh.
And I remember I showed up there with a detective sergeant, and we were on the opposite side, and I saw this guy carrying a gun there. He was near Burwood Park, and I remember I got out of the car real quiet, and my sergeant got out of the car and slammed the door shut, and the guy just turned around and let loose towards us, and then I could actually hear the projectiles hitting the front face of the Westfield Shopping Centre.
God.
So those incidences started piling up, right? And then 96, as we know, that thing happened. So that's when things started getting precarious for us as a community. Gun laws changed. Luckily, John Tingle started the shooters party. I think in New South Wales, if we didn't have the shooters party or people representing us in Parliament, we could have been in a lot of trouble a long time ago. I don't think people are aware how important it is to have people in Parliament. So if you ask me, what can we do? Well, I never tell people who to vote for. But if you're a hunter, doesn't matter if you're a rifle or bow hunter, and you're passionate about it, you have to think about who you're voting for. The other thing I did is that I always went out of my way to write letters.
Yeah.
So if we heard something or if something was brought to my notice, I would write letters.
To who?
I've written to the Premier, I've written to the Prime Minister, I've written to anyone who was involved, local members, my local member, for any reason, anything that I felt was a threat to our lifestyle, I would write letters to the the appropriate member of Parliament.
And do you feel that actually would have an effect, or they would receive that letter? And
They always received it.
okay,
I got a couple of replies. I even got one federal member. He was I think his surname was Hunt, and they were trying to ban Australians from hunting in Africa.
from going over.
Wow.
Yeah, and bringing trophies back.
Yeah.
And I wrote to him, and his PA, one of his PAs, wrote back to me and asked for an interview. And
Wow.
to his credit, he got her to ring me and asked me, and she spoke to me for about half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually sent me a reply thanking me for making an effort. The most important thing people need to do when they do that is that when they do write letters or speak to anybody, they do it in a very calm and
Respectful.
respectful way.
Mm.
You're never going to win friends
Yeah. What's the saying? You
being
catch
angry.
more flies with honey.
Exactly. So, and like I said, the most important thing is to think about who you're going to vote for.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be my advice if we want to maintain, because we're always going to be under threat as time goes on.
Yeah. And the reality is that inaction will lead to these things being banned,
Yeah.
whether there's any real threat or from the sport. That if we keep doing nothing, and I know there's plenty of guys out there who are really active in that space, but Australians are pretty complacent with this stuff.
Yeah.
I know I can be. I mean, you're quite a bit more active about it. Like you'll write
Yeah,
some
I've written letters too. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, we certainly you've got to speak your mind somehow.
You've got to stand up for yourself.
Yeah, no one else is going to do it for you.
If they receive a couple of thousand letters, they might not reply to them, but they'll get them.
Yeah, yeah. And if they know that a couple of thousand people have gone to the trouble to write a letter, and post it,
So in South Australia, I don't know what the situation is there. I know that they're banning bow hunting. I don't know if it's happened or not. And I know a lot of people wrote letters. I mean, I wrote from Sydney. I wrote, but I got a feeling that in South Australia they've already made up their mind. It's very political motivated. In New South Wales, having people in Parliament looking after, representing us, makes a huge difference, because other parties then say, okay, and like for example, the Shooters and Fishers Party have been there for a very long time now. They're part of the establishment.
well established.
That's right. Plus we've got two guys in the lower house, who also represent us, who are not members of the Shooters Party now, but they represent us. They're hunters themselves.
Yeah.
Right. So
South Australia doesn't have anyone.
no. I think we're the only state. I know that Victoria did have someone there once. I'm not sure if they still do. You know. But so that's the most important thing. People need to realise that, stand up for yourself, stand up for your rights. Even if you don't want to write letters, just think about who you vote for.
Yeah. Yeah, as a minimum, if you want to keep this lifestyle, then that's a minimum, minimum requirement.
Exactly.
Yeah, we can't really take it for granted.
No.
Yeah, because we do have a very weird, compared to a lot of other places.
Yeah.
We don't need to get tags and whatnot.
No, that's right.
Carry on like that. We can hunt 365 days of the year. If you want,
we're very lucky.
Our license,
public land.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a huge.
That's all part. That's all because of the Shooters Party got that through.
Yeah, I've heard that story. And it took a long time. These things don't happen overnight, but they can be turned off overnight.
Yeah, they can.
Yeah. Well, have you got anything else you wanted to cover, mate? Anything else that we've missed that you think is an important, positive message to get across?
No, not really. I think we spoke about a lot of things.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had a couple of questions.
Oh, yeah.
What is the best experience you've had hunting?
It's funny. There were too many to isolate one. But I've got to say, this bow hunting night, seeing everyone having such a good time and walking away with a good experience, it's pretty good right now. I'm enjoying that.
Isn't that interesting that your most enjoyable hunting experience is actually not your own? It's helping other people.
Yeah. I think,
on their journey.
When you get to my age,
late 50s.
Although I've got to say, shooting that pig last week, the way I just described, was a huge thrill. You guys know how good it was. But we won't talk about that. Yeah. But that was a huge thrill for me, right? Yeah. So don't get me wrong. I'm still very passionate, but I think you get to the stage in life where, I still want to go hunting every 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I still push my luck at home, but there are more to it now. I don't have kids.
Yeah.
So you guys are kind of my kids. So when I see the guys shooting at the range and walking away going, and they say, "Oh, that was great. I can't wait to come back again." I go, "Beautiful."
Yeah. Well, I thought you might have said my favourite hunting experience was the next one I'm going on. it's always the next one.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to hunt with the Cayuga boys next week.
That'll be
So
mad.
that
next
could
week.
be good.
Wow.
That could be good.
Yeah, that'll be good.
Exciting.
What else do you have there, mate? You had a couple of other.
What about? I mean, I know I've had one pretty bad experience where I lost an animal and couldn't find it, and that was like, you know, the first time it happened to me a couple of years in. I'd been hunting for about 5-6 days, and anyway, ended up going bad, and mate, I was devastated. And I came back home and had a fight with the missus, and you know, like, she was like, "What the hell's going on with you? Oh, you don't understand." You know what I mean? Like, and that was pretty bad for me. Any experiences you've had like that, and any advice you can give to? I know we spoke about the ethics and making sure the shot's right and whatnot. And I mean, what sort of experiences have you had in that sort of?
Oh, look, you know, geez, there are a lot of experiences that I've come back and they've been bad experiences. But, you know, when I think about it, not so many. I haven't hunted with people who I don't like, so I've been lucky there. I guess the most negative is having to deal with illegal hunters on our properties and seeing the damage they do. The other most, and this is a bit contentious because I know a lot of people would disagree with me, but when I was guiding on that property, the two neighbouring properties decided that they would get professional shooters in there to cull the deer, which is fine. It's their property; it's a prerogative. I'm not anti that, and I'm not anti the professional shooters. They're doing a job, okay. But I guess the most upsetting thing for me was over the insuring, because they decided, and it happens a lot. I don't know why it is. I think maybe because the numbers are bigger. They always decide to do these shoots just prior to the rut when the deer start to congregate. And
Perfect timing.
I went out the next day, and I didn't cross the boundaries. I stayed on our boundary side, but I picked up maybe 20, 30 antlers from dead bucks that were shot.
Oh, God.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, the pro shooters would take the meat and the animals. So they weren't always using pro shooters.
Yeah.
They were using family members or local blokes who just were out spotlighting and just shooting stuff, you know. And there was a lot of carcasses lying around, you know. And I remember, I actually remember tearing up.
Yeah.
Out of the frustration about what was happening.
Yeah, it sounds like a
you have
war
no
zone.
control over it. So that's probably my worst experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it would be. You know, seeing all that and the devastation, and you just think,
Yeah.
you know,
I
just
think
leaving it there on the property. You know, like,
Yeah. The takeaway for me when I've had those bad experiences has been, you know, at some point you've got to own it. Yep. That was my fault. You know, I caused that to happen. You know, in most cases, you could have prevented the whole thing going that way.
Yeah.
And so it's what you take away. And are you gonna change your behaviour next time? And whether that's through, I'm going to practice a hell of a lot. I'm not going to take a shot at that distance. I'm not going to take a shot because I didn't have time to recover it properly. I had to leave. You know, whatever that is. What would you do differently next time? And if you're going to change your behaviour, you know, then you've learnt something. You know, you've learnt something.
Yeah. Especially when it comes to bow hunting.
Yeah.
There's it's very marginal.
Yeah. There's less opportunity to follow up.
Yeah.
And fix your mistake.
I
it's a
remember,
good
I,
feel-
remember
oh,
a
sorry.
few, I remember a few years ago I took a shot at a red stag at 50 metres. And I was practicing a lot, you know, at the range, shooting 50 metres all the time. Because I was getting to that stage where just leading into this new period of my bow hunting life where I was shooting every day. And I was shooting 50 metres all the time. And when I snuck up on this red stag and he at first it was only 25 metres. Then I got sprung by a couple of red hinds, and he moved. And when I looked back, he moved back, and he just stood there. And I ranged him at 50 metres exactly, and he just stood there. And I thought, I shoot this every day, right? So I thought I'll do it today. Drew back, took aim, bang, hit him in the front arm, the front shoulder, and the bone. Got hardly any penetration. Right, and it was devastating. So that's probably the most recent experience I had. And what that taught me was I went back to my always original thing. My original thing was I'm never going to shoot beyond 30. Right,
And it's a good thing to have, right?
Yeah.
And to stick to it. Because then when it comes up, 40 metres.
Yeah. That's
should
right.
I take it? Should I? No, this is it. You're not going to take it.
That's
until you
right.
get to
That's
30.
it.
Yeah.
So I don't take it.
And even though you don't get the animal, like I've found, I've set little things like that for myself, like from mistakes that I've made. And when you do think about that mistake and take the action and not do it again, you feel good about it.
Yeah.
You feel really good about it. You've stuck to what you said you were going to do.
Yeah.
You're not just cowboying around and
No.
being an idiot, and you've learnt something.
Yeah. And I find that most shots now with my bow, and that's probably been the whole time I've been bow hunting, is that it's always been less than 30 metres. And really, most shots are less than 20.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Well, mate, have you got a quote that you either you live by, or it's one of your favourite sayings, or a quote that you could leave us with?
Well, you put me on the spot now. So there are a couple of quotes which I can't repeat, but you know how people who are involved in archery, like there's all this YouTube stuff, John Dudley and all this stuff about trying to improve your archery. And he says you always should have a mantra. And Joel Turner now, who's a guru now of the controlled shot with your archery gear. He says you should say something to yourself.
Yep.
Well, as I mentioned to you before, when I shot this pig last week, I introduced a new thing. I just say to myself now, just wait. So all the bow hunters, all of our group on a Wednesday night, should be the new thing.
Yeah.
When you come to full draw, you just say to yourself, just wait.
I like it.
Don't rush that shot. So that's my new thing, just wait.
Yep. No, I like that. Patience is definitely something that I've had to take a while to develop with the archery. And I know, that's definitely, if you're going to be successful, you're going to have to learn it, because it takes a while. Quite often you're sitting there for a long period of time. Like, you could use that. I think in archery, you could probably use it for more than just the shot. You know, when you're sitting there, getting fidgety.
Yeah, because it's usually when you do decide to get up and go.
Yeah,
Every
something's
freaking
5 minutes
time.
behind it.
It's like, I
Every
could have waited
time.
another 5 minutes.
Every time.
No, thanks so much, Charlie, for coming to the Northmead Midnight Butcher Shop.
Yeah,
and
thanks, mate. It's been great.
chopping it up with us. We really appreciate it, and certainly if you want to get connected to a great bunch of people, come down every second Wednesday
Of each month.
to the St Mary's Indoor Shooting Centre, and
There's a Facebook page as well. You can
Facebook
jump
page.
on.
You can like and once you sort of connect to that community, I think, Charlie, you normally send out a poll or whatever to try and see who's coming, just to gauge numbers. But yeah, you can always just rock up and.
I mean, look, all people need to do is jump on the Facebook page we have. It's the Sydney Bowhunters, the St Mary's Indoor Shooting Centre.
Beautiful.
Right? Jump on that, and I give updates all the time, and I put all the stuff on there, tips, and it's all about bow hunting on that thing.
Yeah.
So if you want to get into bow hunting and you want to get better at it, in Sydney, doesn't cost you much.
No.
There's nothing special about anything else except it's just about bow hunting.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity to meet like-minded people and improve your archery skills.
Beautiful. Thanks very much, mate.
Thanks,
Charlie. Hey guys, if you like what you hear, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you can receive updates on when new episodes drop.